Welcome. Welcome, everybody, to the Level 1 Bootcamp Office Hours number 3, or in Europe, 3. My name is Frederick Ballou. I am part of GEG Minnesota Metro area because I thought more words was better with the title. I've taught since 1998, beginner band. I'm a Google certified trainer and innovator, and we're here to answer a bunch of questions. Let's pass it off to whoever wants to go next.
Take it away, Judy.
You want to go first? Me? Well, hello, everyone. My name is Judy Kim. I'm a Google certified trainer and a Google certified innovator in the Singapore 19 cohort. I'm the leader of a Google Educator Group, GEG Gyeonggi, South Korea. Nice to meet you all.
I'm Leslie Clark. I am with GEG New Mexico. I'm one of the co-leaders. I am a Google certified trainer and an aspiring innovator. And since 2001, junior high social, and I coached volleyball, basketball, and track. And I've been in digital learning since 8.
Yeah, and I'm Stacy Klein, and I'd like to remind myself to mute my phone. I teach technology, STEAM, robotics, coding, you name it. I teach it at an amazing middle school in the Santa Ana Unified School District. Go Olive Wolves. I'm a Google certified trainer, and I've been one since 2016. I've been a program specialist with my district doing ed tech PD, and now I'm part of the global GAG community, and we're starting up GAG SoCal, so come to our launch in July. Woo, woo.
Woo! So today we're going to be covering just what was discussed at the Bootcamp Day 2 last Friday. So there are many tools in the G Suite, but we're really only focusing today on docs, slides, forms, and sheets. And each of us have a favorite thing that we learned last Friday. For me, it was within docs, the Explore button. I think that is fantastic. And being able to then use that to create a works cited or bibliography page for students is fantastic. Anyone else find an interesting takeaway from one of their tools?
So Judy's going to talk about forms for a second, and then that's going to segue.
That's it for Google Docs?
Yeah.
Move on to Google Forms? Okay.
I got nothing, man. Docs
well,
are cool.
Especially Google Forms, I mean, it's one of my favorite digital tools too, especially gauge students' understanding and collect the feedback. But when you just take a level 1 exam, there's something I want you to keep in mind before you actually share your link. Can I share my slide now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's Stacy, I think. Yep. Boom.
Now, once you add questions and before you share the link, make sure that you read the scenario thoroughly and see whether your setting is ready. For example, sometimes they ask you to just limit the response. Oh, okay, limit the response. So let me just click setting once again. So you have a forms you created, and before you send and share the link, make sure you check the settings and go to general setting and see whether you just limit the respondent to answer only once, or whether you are going to let respondents to edit after submit or not. And then once you just have the setting ready, make sure that you just click save. Majority of like Google tools, all the like recent the changes are saved in the Google Drive automatically. But for the setting, you have to click save. And also when they ask you to create a quiz, make sure you create the quiz and see whether you are going to let students or respondents to see their grades immediately after their submission or later, or you are going to let those respondents to see their questions they missed, or correct or incorrect answers, or point values or not. And then make sure that you just to complete this setting before you actually share the link. And once you're done, click save. So this is something you have to keep in mind before you share the link through Gmail or just to send the link to someone else, especially for the level 1 exam. That's for the tips for the Google Forms. And
sure.
Especially when you actually, collect the data, there is the data should be collected to Google Sheets. Stacy, you want to just to share your tips?
Take it away, Stacy. Thanks, Judy. I'm so glad you shared the tip on the quiz, because that's really important. And often I forget that that's just the best, to be able to make a quiz out of a Google form that you've done. So thank you for that. Judy's form overview segues great into Sheets. As you guys can see here, we have, oh, I need to do my screen, yay. When you've got your form, you wonder where that data went. And as Judy showed you, I'm going to go into the form that you're using to upload your questions. When you look at your responses, you can see how many responses. You can see some really good visual data visualizations here. But if you want to have really good control over your data, open up the responses and create a spreadsheet. The option will be there to create that spreadsheet. But because I've already opened it, I didn't have that one there. But the cool thing is when you are, one of your possible practicum activities on the actual exam will be opening up that spreadsheet. So, oops, I forgot I didn't open it yet. Let me go over here. So I'm on this screen here, but it's opening another tab. So you're going to click here and you can either select response destination and open a new spreadsheet or select an existing spreadsheet. And since we've already got one, I'm going to open our existing spreadsheet. I need to stop sharing my screen because I'm sharing a tab. I'm going to share the screen again and go back to my Chrome tab and open up the sheets. And you can see here that in your practicum, you'll be asked to sort, you might be asked to sort, nobody knows exactly what's on your actual test exam. But so I can sort the sheet alphabetically, and I can do it from the end of the alphabet or the beginning of the alphabet. So ascending or descending sorts. And then later on, when you get into level 2, you'll start being able to click a cell and do like pivot data and everything. But mainly basics for the level 1, we wanted you to see, people will ask, well, how do I find that spreadsheet? Now you know how to find that spreadsheet. How do I sort that? And you can see it's a simple click. And we'll dive more into that in other sessions in the future. But that's our overview.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
I just everything that goes into slides on level 1 is pretty basic, but I have a couple of tips that are my favorite. The first one is when you're embedding video from your drive. If you're going to share this presentation, I get a lot of frustrated teachers that they share the presentation and the video doesn't go with it. You do, one of the top reasons that happens is you do have to remember to share that video with the same audience that you shared that presentation with. So don't forget to do that. And then my other favorite tip that I actually learned not too long ago, Stacy, can you pull up our presentation and drop into?
Absolutely.
So when multiple people are working on a slide presentation at once, all of your pictures are up at the top. You click on some picture, it will take you edit mode.
Yeah, I'm reading your mind. Sorry.
That's okay. If you click, it takes you right to where they are in the slide deck. So Stacy, if you'll click on my picture, I think I'm the third one.
Oh, I like that.
Straight to one of the later slides that I happen to be on in that deck. So there's no more, what slide are you working on? You just have to click on their picture and it takes you right there.
Whoop, whoop. Pro tip alert. Pro tip alert. Oh my gosh, that was very cool.
Super helpful. Stacy, would you be willing to bring up the, oh, this is us, our hosts. Again, I'm Frederick Ballou. You can find me at Ballou Ed Tech.
And you want the questions now, hon?
Yeah, I was thinking that's what we should do now, is talk about, answer some questions.
Great. So you guys don't forget, if you put your bootcamp questions in there, we will get to all of them. So we'll probably do about 2 or 3 right now. And then, but all of your questions, I think people have submitted another 30 questions since last week. So please get them in there. Our expert minions are in the chat, rapidly answering your questions as we speak. So I have to stop sharing and go to that document. So I will be switching screens.
A couple little things we can talk about as far as taking the test, and I think they're even highlighted if you scroll a bit down, talking about add-ons. Did someone want to talk about that, about your domain, if you take it on your school's domain? Leslie, you had a good point about that. You were talking about which email account to use.
So if your if you're using a school device, oftentimes districts do block the ability to use incognito mode. And unfortunately, unless you can talk to your IT and get them to either temporarily put that device in a different group or issue you another device that's in a different organizational unit, then there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So I usually recommend that if at all possible, use a personal device to take the exam with. If that's, I'm assuming that's referring to having to use incognito and install add-ons as part of the exam.
And then also, if you're using your personal email, you won't be beholding to your district's domain rules about what's a whitelisted add-on and what isn't. Like some districts will block all of YouTube, and that might be part of the test.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the questions.
Yay. So that's this question here, folks. So like I said, the questions will be filled in by our GCTs that are in the chat right now. But we might address them beforehand. Yay, good overview, Leslie. Let's see. Setting up conditions.
I think there was one maybe from that Judy, if you want to re-go over some things with forms. Some people were wondering how to use that, like the feature of almost going to the next section or going to a particular question in a form. And I'm happy to put your screen back up if you are you able to show that one, Judy? Sound good?
Okay, because I can't read the question, but it says
the question says, for Google Forms,
mm-hmm.
when you want to have different things happen for different answers, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Can you only go to the next section, or can you go to a particular question? Like, how do you set those settings up when you're creating the form, I think is the question.
Well, I think the creating question, you don't really need to move on to the next section. You can just to create the questions. But for the setting, probably there's going to be the scenario and different tasks. And each task is going to ask you to, develop your questions. And after that, at the end, they're going to ask you to just to make sure that the respondent's going to answer only once, or you are going to let those students to see the answers right after the submission. So you have to read the scenario thoroughly to make sure that you can just to check the settings before you share the link. Because
Judy, if you want, I can stop sharing my screen if you want to show people how to do the next section. Would you like to do that?
Well, sure.
Yay.
While she's pulling that up, I'll just throw a comment in there that I don't think you can make a form go to a specific question unless you put each one of those questions into a individual section.
Sure. I mean, for the level one, they don't really ask you to divide into different kind of like sections. All you have to do is just to create the question, add the question. I mean, there's been issue for especially my trainees that whether you have to just to check this required the section or not. But because usually the AI evaluate the exam. So sometimes I just ask them to just to make sure that it's required for the quiz part. But the survey, I just let them just leave it, not required. But if the scenario asks you to create the quiz, make sure that you just to make each question required, answer to be required. Now, once you just create your form, what I tried to explain before was just make sure you read the scenario. I mean, last time I know that was it Stacy or Karen asked you to just to take a little kind of note in Notepad and see what kind of settings you have to check, because in the default, maybe it doesn't have anything like this, or depending on what kind of domain you use. Sometimes it says that, respondents can add it after submit, but if the scenario says that your respondents are not supposed to add it, then you have to inactivate these and then make sure that whether respondents going to just answer once or as many times as possible, depends on the scenario given. You just to check this part and make sure that you save. And once you save, you just open setting again. And if you have to create the quiz, go to quiz part, quiz setting. Now activate the quiz and see whether students or the respondents can just to see the grades immediately right after the submission, or you're going to let them see later on, or you're going to allow those respondents to see the missing questions or correct or incorrect answers, or see their point values or not. but everything is written in your scenario. So make sure you just check and see whether you are going to allow them to see them or not. And then click save. Once you are done, then click send button and get the link, whether it's a short link or long one, and then copy the link. And mostly they ask to share with a specific person through Gmail. So you open your Gmail and share the link. And that's the last step probably they ask you to do if you have any scenario related to Google Forms.
Yeah, that's a good. What Judy's she's showing you the level 1 version of for the exam. We're trying to avoid going into like level 2 or higher versions of the questions that you're asking. So don't feel like we're not going to answer your question. That'll be answered in the document. But thanks, Judy. We're trying not to get people too worried about what to do during level 1. Here's a good one that maybe Leslie wants to address. Let's see, was it the slides one? How best to, let me share my screen again. That was fantastic, Judy. Every time you open up forms, I learn something new from you.
Thanks. I mean, because I know what she was asking, but like the dividing section is a level 2. So I try to stick to level 1 since this is a level 1 office hour.
Yeah, we just, those of you out in YouTube land, we are paid to read your minds and to know what, what you really need. Yay! Yeah, paid. Leslie, do you want to do this one? How best to share presentation slides on Twitter?
Which one? Sorry, I'm not saying. Oh, how's the best way to share presentation slides on Twitter? Is there a way to download one of the slides in GIF or video? Oh, gracious. That one might be above my pay grade a bit.
Well, it was answered in the, if you scroll over, you'll see that it says using Screencastify, you can download it as a GIF or MP4. You can also publish the slide deck, because that's one of the things you can do, is one of the options with the slide deck. It is, I believe it's under File. You can publish to the web, and then you just get a URL to put any particular slide or the whole slide deck, and then you can throw that on Twitter. But again, that's not going to necessarily be level 1, right? Like,
no, but you know what I was thinking, Fred, you gave me a good idea. Here we are in our slides, and something that might be level 1 is how to publish to the web or something like that. So, because that's like Fred, Rick again is trying to make sure we stay level 1 so that you're prepared for that exam. But being able to share your slides, even though, downloading it or exporting it as a different kind of a file, one thing you can do is publish to the web. You can email your collaborators. And don't forget, in the middle of the exam, when you're under duress and it's 3 hours and you're super nervous, don't forget you can just click on it. If it's asking you a question, how do you share this set of slides with somebody? Don't forget you can just click on it, and then you're not expected to memorize every single thing. So in terms of, you can email it as an attachment. When you publish to the web, what's really cool, and I like to do this, and I know my fellow GCTs do, your slideshow is just playing there as an embedded web object, and it's not like a slideshow or something like that, and they're able to go through it seamlessly. So it's very cool. Yay.
And the publish to the web is a neat feature that I always forget is there. And it's in Docs and Sheets as well. And it will publish a nice web version of your information without the toolbars and stuff at the top.
And then here,
look at and not mess with too. They're not going to be able to edit it.
And you're going to see a lot of people like Matt Miller and things like that, or Jake Miller on the web talking about animating with Google Slides. So those are like some next level things you can learn. But just the basic download feature is gives you lots of options. You have the open document format, PowerPoint, PDF. PDF is a great way to share things with people that you really don't know what technology they're dealing with. They can read a PDF on a device. They can read, and here individual slides can be exported as JPEGs and PNGs. If you're wondering how we make our awesome our global gig backgrounds on Twitter, when we're sharing things out, it's just a slide. It's a Google slide that we've exported as a PNG, JPEG, or vector graphic that you can use. So very cool options there. Back.
Again, not on the test.
Yeah.
Something that Judy mentioned that I think is huge that really helped me, because I mean, I'll freely admit this. When I took the test the first time, I ran out of time and I failed. And then you have to wait a week before you do it. I was getting creative, right? Like it'll ask you to do a thing. You don't have to think for yourself, truly. If you read through the description of what it is you're supposed to do, copy and paste. Copy and paste literally everything. When it says create a quiz with the question blah, Command or Control C, Control V, boom. You don't have to get creative, because like Judy said, it's all done through AI is grading it, right? And there's no
utilize,
looking at
copy
it.
and paste. That's what I recommend. Do not type in.
And use the, I was not using the keyboard shortcuts at the time, so I was always highlighting and going to the cut button. Learn your keyboard shortcuts for copy and paste.
Control C, Control V.
Yup.
Hey, Stacey, we've got a question coming in about what it looks like to download a document and what information is carried into that download as far as file names and et cetera.
Awesome, awesome. Is it in this document here yet or not yet?
I'm not sure. I just came in the chat.
Here it is.
Well, for the Google Docs, if you download the Microsoft Words and also open document format, PDF, and plain text, web page too, but especially the collaborators' names are not really included. But if you leave any comments, that is added to the Microsoft Words. So because Microsoft Words has a feature of leaving comments. But the rest of them for the PDF and other text format, you might not able to see the comments in the Google Docs.
Yeah, it says here, if a student downloads a file from an assignment, is the student's name automatically put with the file name? No, right?
No.
Unless that was the name of the file. If it is
Unless
Sally
it was
student
in
blog
classroom and
assignment.
it has that name in the file.
Exactly. That's the cool thing about using Google Classroom, which we're going to address next week, is if you're using that to distribute your documents, it gives them their own copy, shares with you in a file that's shared in your Google Drive, and it names it, because that's the worst thing for us teachers is our kiddos not naming their documents, and you're always putting that question mark on their paper. But very cool. Let's see. Does anybody want to tackle this one? What's the difference between level 1 certified and 2 in terms of content? A couple of us have just recently retaken. We have to take our exams every 3 years like everybody else. So some of us have just taken that.
Well, especially level 2, you need to get to know about some of the add-ons, such as Google Sheets. You need to know about the Flubaroo. But level 1 doesn't ask you to know anything about add-ons or extensions. That could be the difference between level 1 and level 2. And level 1 is kind of your knowledge for broad tools. So you need to know every single, I think 14 different tools. But level 2, you need to have a little depth knowledge about Google Forms, Sites, and Sheets. They're more intensive in level 2. That's the way I see it. What do you think?
I see level 1 as making absolutely sure the participant is very solid, and then kind of dipping your toes into using them with, where level 2 is a more advanced use of the tools, full on using with students, starts to tackle pedagogy a little bit more. And then the second part of that is what's needed to become a certified trainer. You need both level 1 and level 2.
And then the test itself for trainer is not as in depth. There's no doing stuff with the trainer test. Am I correct in saying that? The trainer test was just multiple choice.
Yes.
The intensity of the trainer process is in the application. But I do, which is why I encourage people while they're working on level 2 to go ahead and open that trainer application and take a look at it and start thinking about those questions. Because the application process is where the intensity is in trainer, where in level 1 and level 2, the intensity is in the exams.
Right.
And the trainer exam is specifically what federal laws govern your work with minors. And there's very specific laws in terms of the law requiring the ability for any parent or family to get all the data that's held on their child. Other ones about creating online accounts at under the age of 13, and things like that, and protecting student privacy. So the trainer is geared towards you being an actual manager of a situation and needing to understand the ramifications of what you're doing. Level 1, I made a HyperDoc a million years ago, and I update it continually because the links are always changing or something, it's evolving. But if you want to know exactly what's on it, it's in there. All 13 units are in there, and you can see the level of subtlety between level 1 and level 2 and what you have to do.
Right.
Fred, excuse me, he's in my heart, he's Fred, because we're all like friends, not in real life, we're all virtual friends. And so after like knowing somebody forever, and then it's like, oh, your name isn't that. That's really cool. Awesome.
Well, my name is Frederick, but I do go by Rick. Yeah.
But Rick's point was, don't overdo it. Like, if it tells you to put a flower on the page, put a flower on the page and move on. Don't try to make that flower pretty or go, I would put this in another doc, because the AI that's grading your test will not see it. Sorry, Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just, the comments that Stephanie's popping up are one of our behind the scenes awesome people. Best tip of the day from Judy: follow the instructions. 100%. Yeah. I mean, they're going to tell you specifically what they want. And like you said, Stacy, just do that and then move on. Because even though it's 3 hours, the first time I took it, I ran out of time. The second time, not so much, because I knew what to expect. But I mean, don't, like you're saying, don't overthink. Just do it and move on. So.
Yeah, and spend too much time on multiple choices. Like sometimes the people want to just get perfect on first part, taking like too long in first multiple choice. But make sure that
it took me 2 hours.
Yeah,
I took 2 hours on the multiple choice the first time, and then when I got to the actual stuff, the cool stuff, I totally ran out of time.
Yeah, and it's not that the things in level 1 are difficult, but if you don't leave yourself a good 2 hours to get the multiple choice done in an hour, it physically takes time to open a doc, put in a flower, share that doc with a parent, and everything's populated in your account. You don't have to make anything up. You'll have a fake contacts, you'll have a fake Google Drive, and then it'll already be populated with the images that they want to see. So you're not searching for anything. It's all embedded in that. The other piece of advice I can give you is through the Teacher Center, and then that's why the HyperDoc kind of helps, is do every single lesson check on those. Because if you think about it as a teacher, when we're taking our annual student assessments, those release questions are gold. And Google's given you these release questions. So every lesson check, there's anywhere from 2 to 6 lesson checks in every unit. Take every one of those questions. And at the end, do the unit review until you have it perfect, because you're getting your testing fitness up, and you can just like slam through those multiple choice questions and leave yourself a leisurely 2 or more hours for those practical questions.
And then if there are any questions you're not quite sure about, there is a button called the review later. So you just check it and move on. And then after you are done with the scenario, and then you can just go back and check some of the questions you are not sure about. So don't spend too much time on the multiple choices.
For sure. So in our back channel chat here, someone asked about Google Plus. Did you want to touch on that, Leslie?
I'll touch on it. So Google Plus is actually on its way out the door. One of the things we love the most about Google is that they're constantly updating everything. One of the things we like the least about Google is they tend to update it in the middle of our trainings, or they update the product and then the materials don't get updated quickly enough. It is possible it could be on the test. It's literally, you just search for a community and join it and you're done if they do ask about it. But it is on its way out. Google Plus is about to be replaced by another product, I think, but I don't know for sure that it's even going to be intended for education. So really focus on, I believe that's Unit Level 1, talks about building your PLN, is really the purpose and why you would want to build your PLN. And they promote Google Plus in the course book. That was Google's product of choice. Again, it's on their way out, and there are many other ways to build that PLN at this point.
And Google Plus isn't even available to personal Gmail accounts anymore. And so the global gay community is we're now all web driven. We're we share on Twitter and our websites and things like that. So what you'll be looking for now for your PLN is your local gig and your global gig. Far from San Francisco, give it up for NorCal. She had a really good question on, does somebody want to tackle the incognito mode? I can demonstrate it if you guys want.
Yeah,
Someone
please do.
talking.
Since
Yeah,
you
do
shared
that.
your slide, yes.
Okay, so when you are in,
Oh, and technically this was only supposed to be office half hour, so we
Oh.
are over. So we
1
will
second.
need to wrap this up after you show us this stuff, Stacey.
cool,
All right.
cool. All right, and what I
Incognito.
got to do is I have to stop sharing my screen again because I just remembered that I'm not sharing my own whole window. So this is a big deal. You have to be an incognito window. You have to use the Chrome browser. The Chrome browser is part of the G Suite for Education tools, and it's an essential tool for your teaching and learning with G Suite. So do the entire screen this time and share. Now, are you guys able to? Oh, goody. All right, so file.
So messy. I mean,
new
yeah, we
incognito window. Yay. So Shazam. And when you guys are having trouble, I was having trouble with an extension and I couldn't log into Edpuzzle with my Google account. So if you're having trouble with an extension, if you open an incognito window, then you will be able to be extension free, and whatever is bothering your login, it could be a hiccup with that. So this kind of strips everything, but gives you this like anonymous identity. And don't forget to log out of all of your Google accounts when you take your exam. And that's it for sliced bread.
cool. Just a reminder, there is another one of these later today or tomorrow, depending on your time zone. It'll be office hours number 4. Again, covering what was done on Bootcamp Day 2 and potentially 1 if necessary. And coming up this Friday, or depending on your, time zone, is Day 3, where we'll be covering all the other stuff that we haven't covered. That'll be part of the level 1 exam. But again, go to the bit.ly that was showing to leave us some feedback, because we can't learn if we don't get feedback. And that's it for us. Yeah, here it is. GEG
And
Global.
I have a feeling that Miss Rothstein will put that in the banner for that, because we have a secret word. And Rick, what is that secret word today?
Our code for today is the expert. Nope. I think it was
It
the
is expert. I don't know. Maybe we have 2 codes.
We might have 2 codes. There were 2 codes then. One is, unless it just changed. Nope, it's working from home. That's right. Our code today is working from home. And then later, the expert is in. It looks like we have 2 in the slide deck.
Yeah, the second one's supposed to be for the second.
Oh, very
good. Preview. So the working from
real
home.
quick, that feedback form will give you your certificate of attendance. There's been a lot of emails about how do I get my certificate of attendance, and you just fill out this Google form and it automatically makes it and will send it to you. So if you make a spelling error, it's going to send to the email that you typed in exactly. So make sure you just double check your name, your email, and if you mess up, feel free to just fill it out again. But this is the link that you will need in order to get that certificate.
Right on. Thank you.
Hot dog. Yay.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And what a treat to work with Judy and Leslie and Fred. We're all in different parts of the globe. And
I know. For me, time to go to bed. It's almost to 1 a.m. in South Korea. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Everybody, good luck with your exam.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks
Bye
for joining.
now.
Thank you. All right. And